Hello there. Welcome to the Word Cafe podcast. This podcast has been designed with created content that centers on the power of words. Can we really do anything without speaking? Can we really do anything without the agency of words? Yes, that is what this podcast is all about. And I am your host, Amakri Isobe, your neighborhood word trader. I believe in the power of words, for it is the unit of creation. I trade in words to profit my world. Oh, traditions. Are you a traditional person? Are you? You know, sometimes when I have discussions with my wife, she's just like, you're a traditional person, or, you know, and all that. And I say, well, I don't hold on to traditions, but I'm traditional. Did that come out right? Okay. Simply put, you know, human beings are creatures of habits. And this habits is seen in practically everything we do. So when you aggregate different habits, you come to create a culture, you know. Then this culture over time, you see, becomes tradition. This is how it's done. And you're like, okay, where did it come from? My father or my mother or our parents. So from generation to generation, we come to see this go. So why am I talking about traditions now? It's because I want to share something with you I consider tradition. And a lot of us go through it and we don't know, or we don't have the understanding of it. We just go with the flow. What is that? I call it, you know it, the secret of the tithe. Ah, yes, the secret of the tithe. The word tithe is a Yiddish word, Jewish word, and when translated is 10%. I've always looked at it like, why tithe? Why the tithe? I've pondered on it and all of that. And you, when we get to the end of this discourse, you will see that it permeates everything we do. So, as usual, my way of doing things, I go research, check, ask, read up and all that. And I realized that the tithe was an ordinance that predates even Abraham. Yes. And someone, what do you say? Yes, hold on, let's get there. Offering. The tithe is a kind of offering. Our human existence, our human life rides on traditions that are based on ordinances. Who were the first people to give offering or to offer anything? Cain and Abel. You remember that story? My Bible story. Yes. And Abel's was accepted, while Cain's was not. That's a story for another day. But now, what I want to bring out from this is that offering. They started by tilling the earth. Cain was more of the farmer, himself and his brother, but the other was more into husbandry, animal husbandry, and the other was into, crops and all of that. But simply put, they offered something to God, and there was a response to their offering. Now, the response to their offering speaks of something. From where I stand, what I see, divinity responding to them made it clear they had a link with divinity. One negative, one positive, if I must put it that way. One's offering was accepted. And from human traditions, When you take an offering to a deity or to a king or to one that is higher than you, and when you offer that offering or you give that offering, in return, there's an acceptance. That acceptance will come with access. The greatest gift anybody can have or give to you is access. Because when you have access to divinity, when you have access to the stores of divinity, I leave the rest to your imagination. So that happened. But we come to see that from scriptural references. Abraham was another person who practiced the tithe. Now, it happened when he went to rescue his nephew, Lot, from the battle, the 5 kings and all of that, Kedolema, I think that's how it is pronounced, and all of that. He came across Melchizedek, the priest of God, who had no end of beginning of days or end of days. Bible scholars will call that theophany, as in that's divinity coming in flesh. Yep. And that's story for another day. So he offered rather, not gave. He offered 10%. He offered a tithe, which is 10% of everything. I don't know how he calculated it, but that is what the tithe means. If you go look at that incident or that relationship, that discourse, immediately he left Melchizedek. I'm talking about Abraham now. Went back home. The next thing that happened was God appeared to him and said, I am your reward. After the tithe, I am your reward. Just imagine that access, divinity becoming your reward. That is giving you unfettered access. Now, Abraham, I want to believe, instituted that as a tradition. And everyone that came after Abraham started doing that. The tithe. I'm going to jump, then I'll come back. The tithe became a Levitical order when the children of Israel left Egypt. And Moses, when he went up, came up with the 10 Commandments and all of that. But before that, something happened. The story of Joseph. You know, when Joseph was sold into slavery by his brothers, and he went into slavery, Potiphar's, and all of that, he was in jail, interpreted a dream. Pharaoh had a dream, and Joseph was called upon. Now, when you listen to how Joseph responded to Pharaoh, it's amazing what he told him. He said, I know the one who has the answers. He will give Pharaoh the answer of peace. And Pharaoh said in response, the way you have spoken about my dream, revealing even like you gave answers. This is the problem, you gave answers. The only person that can go about this is a wise person, discerning. And he appointed Joseph. Follow me? Now, when Joseph came, the advice he gave to Pharaoh was, we need to save 5% or 20%, as we want to call it. Yeah, of all our produce. That is the principle of the tithe. Because you know, the tithe is giving an offering to God, 10% of it. Come to think of it, does divinity need your substances? No. But it creates a connection, granting you access to the secrets behind the clouds, if I must use that word, where divinity is just waiting. So it opens to you the portal of what's to happen. So he said to Pharaoh, we need to shore up 5%, which translates to 20%. The principle of the tithe. But you know what? Come to ask yourself this question. When Joseph advised Pharaoh of the tithe, the principle of the tithe, to tithe his resources, what next? If we save, what next? Now, Joseph, by the reason of the secret of the tithe, created a trade formula, created a commerce. He created a new economy. He created a new thinking pattern in the educational sector, because Egypt of that day was the light or the commercial hub of the world. So people came to Egypt to get knowledge. So they started coming to buy grain. You see the secret of the tithe now? He gave 5%. Shore up. Then people started coming to buy. They come with money. They exchange value. He gives them grain. So imagine the whole world. Just imagine for a minute the whole world of today trooping into one economy to exchange value as a result of a principle an individual got from his great-grandfather, because that happened 430 years if you check the timelines. So he created a new economic system, the tithe. And I think that's where a lot of us miss it in the understanding of that. We think the tithe is an exclusive reserve for a given people. No, it is a principle that divinity honors across the world, across his creation. I know you're just wondering. There are people who practice the tithe unknowingly. When you say tithe, what comes to our mind? The traditional religious mind or religious thinking is money. No. Tithe is a value. How do I know that? Abraham gave to Melchizedek. I don't think it was money like you think. He gave him of his substance, value. Where a man's treasures are, there his heart will be. Yes. So there are people who practice this. They give. Imagine you tell yourself every day, out of 24 hours, I'm going to give 5% of it to a certain thing, practicing it. You see, you being ignorant of the law does not excuse you from the consequences that follows of the law. You think there is no gravity? Jump down from a 2-story building. You will break your legs. So these are principles God in his infinite wisdom has put on the earth to propel growth and prosperity. So those people who go to the gym, they tell you, I want to lose weight, I want to do this. They're practicing the tithe. You're given a given time. But when you become so conscious of it and you begin to give value, now Malachi puts it this way. He says, bring ye all the tithes into my storehouse, test me in this and see if I will not open the window, I think it's window or windows, of heaven. Excuse me. That sounds like a portal. That sounds like you accessing another dimension. And from that dimension, you bring that energy from that dimension to this dimension. And you and I know the greater blesses the lesser. So he said, try me if I will not open the windows of heaven. Friends, there is a dimension called heaven. And one way to access it is the tithe. I don't care what you think about it or the abuse that have been, done as a result of, the tithe. But one way to unlock divinity, to expose heaven, to bring the influence of heaven to this dimension is the tithe. And that was what Joseph did. Because when you store up things, how do you preserve them? How do you keep them to last for years? You will come up with technology, ideas, concepts, knowledge to preserve food, how to, bring that atmospheric condition that will make you know what I'm talking about, guys. It is not ordinary. So all of this came as a result of the windows of heaven being opened unto who? Joseph. I'm not speaking now, am I? I know I'm not. But that's how I see the tithe. That is how I see saving. That is how I see offering, giving things to God. He responds by opening up the portal. Very heavy for you, right? Well, that's how it came to me, and I said I need to share it with you. So our world is going through a lot today. Our world is seeking answers, looking for solutions to those challenges. I think we need the opening of the portals of heaven. And one way to do that is not just the only way, but one way to do that is the tithe, is the offering, is to give. And divinity will be in your debt. You are more or less like brought the hands of divinity together to respond to you. I am not traditional in quote, but I love traditions. Traditions that are divine, that unlock gates and have those answers, true answers roll in. All right, guys. All right. I know I brought you into that zone now. You have to think. You have to ask questions. That's why we're here. Thank you. It's always fun coming into this space, sitting in front of you, reaching out to you. Yes, my name is Amakri. Amakri is away. Bye for now. Awesome time it has been with you on the Word Cafe podcast today. Thank you for being there. You can catch me up on my social media handles, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram, all at Amakri Isoboye. Also, you can get copies of my books, A Cocktail of Words, The Color of Words, my HR notebook, and Hocus Focus on God on Amazon and Roving Heights online bookstores. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel at the same address at Amakri Isowe. I love to hear from you and how this podcast has impacted you.